where in just some time from now, a major deal is likely to be signed in Doha, Qatar. Representatives from the United States and the Taliban will be sitting on the same table across each other, and they are likely to sign what is being described as a historic agreement, which the Americans are trying to sell to the rest of the world as a peace deal. Now, the entire world will, of course, have its eye on this event, and WION is indeed the only Indian news network that will get you all the live updates that will unfold from Doha, Qatar. But first, let's tell you as to what this Afghan peace deal is all about. Now, the specific details of this particular agreement are still unclear, but we can tell you that this agreement will pave the way for the withdrawal of the American troops from Afghanistan. For over 19 years, American soldiers have been in Afghanistan fighting against the Taliban. And now, believe it or not, the superpower of the world is negotiating with the Taliban for what is being described as a peace deal by the Americans, but the critics describe this as a withdrawal agreement. Now, ahead of signing, the Taliban has agreed to implement not a ceasefire. This again is very important. The Taliban has agreed not to implement a ceasefire, but a reduction in violence, which began from the 22nd of February. This was a confidence-building measure, something that has assured the Americans that the Taliban are willing to sign the deal. Now, the goal of these peace talks is supposed to be some form of power-sharing agreement between the elected government in Kabul and the Taliban. And what is interesting and also baffling is that in this peace deal that is to be signed today, the elected government in Kabul has had no role to play. Now, representatives from 26 different countries will be participating in the event today. Now, Qatar has asked India to send a representative to be present at the table, and New Delhi has accepted the invitation. So India will indeed be there at the high table in Doha as an observer of this peace deal. And also to add more perspective in terms of what is to happen today, we are joined in by WION's Siddhant Sibal, who is joining us live. So Siddhant, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has written a letter to Ashraf Ghani, the Afghan president, extending an invite to him to visit India, and even has also congratulated him for winning the elections. Now, what message does this send about India's role in these peace talks?
Just few hours left before the deal is signed between the Americans and Taliban in Doha, the deal that can lead to American troops withdrawal from Afghanistan, but huge ramifications, especially for New Delhi. We know that New Delhi is playing an important role when it comes to development of Afghanistan, whether it's capacity building or infrastructure development. We also know that the Indian Foreign Secretary was in Kabul on Friday. He met the Afghan president, the vice president, the chief executive, also the acting foreign minister and the NSA. We know India has been playing an important role when it comes to the Afghan peace process. The Qatari government has invited India, and India will be represented by Indian envoy to Doha at the ceremony to witness the ceremony, the signing of the deal between the Taliban and the United States. This is an acknowledgement that New Delhi is considered a serious and an important stakeholder when it comes to the Afghan peace process and Afghanistan. But by and large, there are anxiety as well. What next in Afghanistan after the American troop withdrawal? This was, of course, discussed when the US President Donald Trump was here in Delhi, and he discussed this with the Indian Prime Minister, especially drawdown of troops. The last time Taliban was there in Kabul, we know that Pakistan enjoyed a huge strategic leverage, and Pakistan has been keen to use the strategic leverage in Afghanistan against India. So New Delhi has already conveyed this to the Americans, told that in case of withdrawal, in case when the deal will be signed, the territories of Afghanistan should not be used by Pakistani terrorists against India. This is something, a cause of concern, which New Delhi has highlighted many times to the Americans. Americans and major stakeholders in Afghanistan. So it's an important day, huge ramification, especially for the regional countries, whether it is Tehran, Islamabad or New Delhi. But it's a thing which will be watched carefully by most of the countries, and right now there will be no major development, but do expect reactions coming in the aftermath of the signing of the deal. With video journalist Neeraj Patel, Siddhant Sibal for WION in New Delhi.